power of you controlling your breathing right now. Feel the power of you enjoying your greatest gift right now. That's you. That's your presence. That's your greatest power. Your power to determine to stay in the present, in the now, and be your true great being that you are. No matter what. In this present moment, everything is here you need right now. So let's see ourselves today doing the best we can in the gym of life. Here we are again. Controlling our minds. Controlling our breathing. One great thought at a time. One great breath at a time. So see yourself doing your best on all the exercises we do today together, here and now. That's your determination. Your greatest power. Power that's the same in you and every human being on the planet.
System, Red One, Shawty. Comme d'habitude, on est calé. Comme toujours, ça va aller. On te met l'ambiance à gogo. Tous ensemble, on fait le show.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis, c'est bien faire la folie.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis. Oh, 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 oh. C'est pas seulement pour les bobos. Nous on vient dans nos mambo. Mon ami, si tu as le niveau, rejoins-nous pour t'enjailler.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis, et viens faire la folie.
On t'invite à la magie, y a pas de raccourci. Oublie tes soucis. Oh, 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 oh.
And picks out Messi. Messi goes for the gap, and Messi goes for the corner of the goal, and it's in. It's so often.
Good morning, guys. Today, Will Smith shares with us another rule for success, one of his favorites, and Evan Carmichael's favorite as well, and that is make a choice. So Will Smith goes on to tell us that he truly believes that by making choices, he can create anything he wants in life. He wants to represent possibility. He wants to represent the magic of what we really are through that one thing, making a choice. And I love this because for me, determination stands for making a choice and following up and never giving up until you see that choice through. And so Will Smith gives us an example of how he believes he can create anything by studying it, by learning it, by being relentless in it. But it all starts with a choice. You have to make a choice to improve you so that you can improve your life and those around you. And it's possible. Have a great morning, everyone.
So, I've got kind of a weird way to start this talk about habits because I think it's important to kind of understand the fundamentals because I'm not going to give you a list of healthy habits. You want a list of healthy habits? Google them because they're really boring, honestly. Like there's no sexy, healthy habit out there that everybody wants to do. And so I want to just give you some mechanics and some ways to think about habits. And interestingly, I've been doing a tremendous amount of research on them for something that we're in the middle of right now. And I'm going to tell you a story about habits. And as I tell the story, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Okay. And the other thing that I want to say about habits, even though I'm going to keep using the word practice new habits. The reason why habits are so important, everybody, is because based on research, this is from a study that was published a couple of years ago, that 40% of your behavior are what we call habits. Habits, that's just another word for patterns, okay? And so I'm going to give you some examples of habits that you might not even think about are a habit, okay? And a pattern or a habit is simply a behavior pattern. We call them a loop, and I'm going to explain why. It's a behavior pattern that is stored in the subconscious part of the brain. You'll also often hear people talk about the basal ganglia. And the reason why you have habits is because your brain loves shortcuts. See, everything that your brain is doing and your nervous system is doing, we've talked a lot about this in other trainings, but everything that your brain and your nervous system is doing, it requires fuel. Just like your car requires fuel for you to be able to go from where you are right now to the grocery store, that's how it runs. Your brain requires fuel. And your brain has figured out ways to maximize the fuel and to be more efficient. And the way that your brain is more efficient is it learns habits and patterns. And when you have a habit or a pattern that you have memorized because you've repeated it so many times, it takes less fuel for your brain to reflexively do that pattern than doing something new. And I'll give you an example. This is something you can test out later today or tomorrow. I want you to think about like a place that you often bike or drive to. Maybe it's a grocery store, maybe it's work, maybe it's school, maybe it's a friend's house. Tomorrow, I want you to consciously drive an entirely new and different and longer way. And you will notice something. You will notice that your brain fights you. you will notice that your brain is annoyed, and you will notice that it takes more effort for you to think about where you're headed. Because the way that you commute to work or school or the grocery store, you have repeated that so many times. It is now a pattern or a habit loop stored in your brain. That's why often you get to places you always drive and you're like, oh my God, who drove the car? Because you don't remember driving the car, because your brain was in the background making decisions that have already been automated. So the reason why that happens, just in summary, is because if you had to use your prefrontal cortex and focus on every aspect and every decision, from how you pick up the toothbrush to how you hold a pencil to all that stuff, you literally would need to take a nap by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You wouldn't be able to process that much new information. And so it's a way for your brain to take a break. It learns patterns, automates behaviors. So let me give you some examples of some habits you might not think about. Picture yourself sitting at the wheel of a car, and you put the car in reverse. Which shoulder do you look over as you're backing up? It's always the same one, isn't it? And depending upon where you live in the world, it's one side or the other. It's always the same. You don't even think about it, do you? That right there is a habit. That is a reflexive action and pattern that you do without even thinking. Now think about your evening routine. Do you lock the door every night at home? Do you have a pattern or habit of things that you just go through in your house, reflect? You don't even think about it, right? You're not like, oh, it's time to lock the door. Where is the door? I can't remember how to do that. I better force it. No, you just get up, you walk to click the lock, and it's just a pattern that you do that is triggered by the end of the night. Here's the second thing I want you to know about patterns. Patterns repeat. Patterns repeat. If you don't interrupt a pattern and replace it with something else, the pattern will repeat forever. So learning new behaviors and learning new habits is a lot more about spotting the things that you don't want to do anymore and interrupting them, and then replacing those old patterns with new patterns. And I believe that when you start to feel broken or stuck in your life, you're not broken. You have a pattern from your past that makes you feel broken based on where you want to go now. And I also believe that when you feel stuck in life, you're not actually stuck. You're just stuck repeating these old patterns. And until you catch them and you interrupt them, which is where the 5-second rule comes in, there's nothing more powerful to help you interrupt an old pattern than counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, to interrupt the loop. But then you have to replace it with something else. Because if you don't replace the pattern, what's rule number 1 about patterns? Patterns repeat. So you can't just break a habit. Technically, you don't break a habit. Technically, you replace it with something else.
Do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Don't throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your hips in it. Let's have some fun. To the left now. To the right. Now take your left hand and put it on your side. Gon' roll your shoulders, do the slip and slide. This next part's my favorite part, cause it's time to shine. Gonna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Gon' throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your hips in it. It's simple, you can do it. Slide Slide to the left, slide to the right. Now cool down, have a good time. Slide to the left, slide to the right. Do the butterfly, have a good time. Round, round, round and round you go. It's time to show out right now and take to the floor. Gonna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Don't throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your hips in it. Take it down now, take it down now. Take it down now, take it down now. Bring it up now, bring it up now. Bring it up now, bring it up now. Take it down and crisscross. Bring it up now, crisscross. Do whatever you like right here. Just have fun. Gonna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Don't throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your hips in it. That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? That was not so bad. That was not so bad, was it? Gonna do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart and spin out with him. Do the hold down and get into it. Take it to the left now and dip with it. Don't throw down, take a sip with it. Now lean back, put your hips in it.
Yeah.
Spells trouble. Here's Messi. Messi with a shooting chance. It's in again.
He's getting it. Good afternoon, guys. Making choices is the most powerful thing we've been gifted to be able to do. And it all originates with our thoughts, our mindset. What is taking place in our mind in terms of what thought energies we're allowing into our mind, and then what we do with those energies. So think about it very carefully. What is it that you are thinking and then saying? Because what you say is really a symbol of what you're thinking. So once we understand that power, and once we understand how every decision or every thought impacts everything around us, once we take responsibility of that, we become really empowered to make those decisions that are going to improve our life. So remember that your choice, making a choice in itself and being decisive, will put you on that path to becoming your true great self. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
If you keep on doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep on getting what you've been getting. You got to change performance. Now, before you can change performance, you got to change your thinking. But before you can change your thinking, you've got to change what goes into your mind. I don't care how positive I got. For example, I could not whip a boxing champion or play basketball for an NBA basketball team or football for an NFL team. Positive thinking won't let you do anything, but it will let you do everything better than negative thinking will.
Zig Ziglar was one of the world's most popular motivational speakers. Ziglar was one of 12 children raised by a widowed mother during the Great Depression. He wrote over 25 books, including See You at the Top, and inspired millions of people around the world. In this exclusive training, Ziglar shares with us the power of positive thinking, how to reprogram your mind, and how to improve every aspect of your life. Special thanks to the Ziglar family for partnering with us to release this exclusive content on our YouTube channel. Enjoy.
Yes, life can be fun. It certainly can be exciting. As a matter of fact, I believe that you were born to win. Unfortunately, too many people have been conditioned to lose. The truth of the matter, though, is the fact that I believe you can be number one. Now, that doesn't mean I believe that everybody can be the biggest and the fastest and the strongest and the smartest, but I believe when you get up in the morning and look in that mirror and say, today, I'm going to do my very best, and then that day you do your best, and that evening you look back in the mirror and say, today, I did my best, I believe you are number one. Our basic problem in our society today is the tremendous amount of negative input in our minds. You see, the truth of the matter is you are what you are and you're where you are because of what has gone into your mind. And you can change what you are and change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. The problem is, as I indicated, we have too much of the negative input. For example, we talk about the terrible twos, when in reality, they're the terrific twos, the tremendous threes, the fantastic fours, the fabulous fives, the super sixes, the sensational sevens. Actually, you could take three babies, one born in Chicago, Illinois, one born in Shanghai, China, the other born in the upper Amazon, and you raise those babies there. And the baby born in China, because of the input, will grow up to be a communist. The baby born in the upper Amazon and raised there, because of the input, will believe in headhunters and witchcraft and voodoo and that sort of thing. Now, the baby born in Chicago and raised there is obviously going to grow up believing in the Chicago Bears. That's right. That input does make such a tremendous difference, but the input too often, as I said, is negative. I was in a cafeteria and a little girl in front of us was crying. A grandmother type lady leaned down and said, "What's the matter, honey?" And her daddy spoke up and said, "She's mean. That's what, she's just plain mean." I was up in Nashville, Tennessee on the way down to the gate to catch a plane. Passed a lady and a little 5-year-old boy, and as I was walking past, the little guy was dragging his heels. And the mother turned to him and said, "Come on, stupid, we're going to miss the plane." Now, what does that do to that child? What does it do to the image of the child and the optimism and enthusiasm of the child? I think you know the answer. My friend Bill Glass tells me that over 90% of the people in our prisons today and jails were repeatedly told by their parents, one of these days you're going to grow up and go to jail. He was sharing with me that at one of their association meetings or revivals, actually there in a prison, he and Jim Glass, the champion catcher for the world's champion Kansas City Royals, were talking. And as they were chatting, Jim Sundberg, who had been told when he was 3 years old down in Stockton, California by his dad, "One of these days, son, you're going to grow up and be a great major league catcher." He told him that over and over. And Bill and Jim were talking, and Jim just shared with Bill, "You know, I'm sure glad that when I was a child, that my dad told me that when I grew up, I was going to be a world's champion catcher, because I am exactly where he said I was going to be." And an incarcerated man standing close by, quietly but rather sadly said, "Well, you know, I'm exactly where my dad told me I was going to be." You see, that input does make a dramatic difference. The good news is very simple. You do have some of every single quality which we've identified. But let me tell you something to think about. If you had $1 million in the bank, you'd never write a check on it if you did not know the money was in the bank. But the moment you discovered it was there, that's when the local economy would take a giant leap forward. And I've discovered that everybody everywhere seems to want exactly the same thing. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to be healthy. They want to be at least reasonably prosperous. They want to be secure. They want to have friends, and they want to have peace of mind. Now think with me on this, please. If those are the things that you want, doesn't it make sense to take an inventory and see what you've got? And when you take that inventory and discover what you've got, if you discover that it's short of what you want, then surely it makes sense to you to discover and explore how you got what you got. And what you're going to discover is this: you've gotten the things you've gotten based on your performance. Now, the possible exception to that is money. Occasionally someone inherits that. I don't depend on it, but it can happen. All of the other things are based on your performance. So logically, if you want to change what you've got, doesn't it make sense that you've got to change your performance? Because you see, in the simplest term possible, if you keep on doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep on getting what you've been getting. You got to change performance. Now, before you can change performance, you got to change your thinking. Because you see, your thinking, regardless of what you do, has a dramatic impact on that performance. But before you can change your thinking, you've got to change what goes into your mind. And now we're back where we started. You're what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. And you can change what you are, you can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. Now, I have in my hands a most unusual coin here. It is a piece of gold. It's a gold coin, therefore, custom made, especially for me, by a close friend. As you can see on this side, there's the arrow going up. See you at the top is what it's really saying. If you'll also notice, I have in my other hand another coin. It's a dime. Now, these two coins, if they're placed at the bottom of the ocean, have exactly the same value. That is nothing, because they're not being used. When you bring them to the surface, however, this gold coin is worth several $100s, whereas this one is still worth the dime. Now, the difference really is what's in the coins, but the fact that we've now brought them to the surface to use them. In your own life, all of the qualities and values you have, unless you bring them to the surface and use them, they really won't have that value. Now, on the other side of this custom-built coin, we have a rather unique little thing. If you look very carefully, you can read it says T-U-I-T. And since the coin itself is round, and since this is a to-it, this means this literally is a round to-it. Many times I've had people say to me, well, I'm going to do something just as soon as I get a round to it.
Hey there, it's Mark Tim with the Ziglar family, and I sure hope you're enjoying the video from my mentor, the legendary Zig Ziglar. Because you're part of Evan's audience, we want to give you a special bonus. It's a cool little book called The Little Book of Big Quotes, packed with awesome content. This book is free just for you. Check out the description below, and it's yours. Alrighty, let's get you back to Zig.
Zig, you've stressed the importance of input, and it really makes sense, but where do we get the right kind of positive input?
Well, basically, Jim, we have a number of sources. The associates, the people we're with and around, certainly have an input. The people we work with, our families, all of these have inputs. Now, the question is it the correct input? A lot of times, unfortunately, the answer to that is no. So to compensate for the negative input, we have to deliberately seek the positive input. By that I mean we simply need to read the good books, the optimistic, positive thinking, powerful inputs into our mind. We need to listen to those recordings as we're driving to and from. The car can make a marvelous traveling educational institution. We need to listen while we're washing dishes or weeding the flower bed. We can do those things when we are, well, shaving or applying makeup. That's where we need to have that positive input.
Who are some of the
I'm gonna take my horse through the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse through the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
I got the horses in the back, horse stock is attached. Head is matted black, got the bushes black to match. Riding on a horse, ha, you can whip your Porsche. I've been in the valley, you ain't been up off that porch. Now, can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing.
like a rock star. Spend a lot of money on my brand new guitar. Baby's got a habit, diamond rings, and Fendi sports bras. Riding down Rodeo in my Maserati sports car. Got no stress, I've been through all that. I'm like a Marlboro man, so I keep going back. Wish I could roll on back to that old town road. I wanna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
This is Messi. May go alone. Does go alone.
Good evening, guys. I want to share with you a personal example of my path to living, laughing, and loving my way to infinite mind wealth. And this comes from my eldest daughter, who reminded me of some of the things that we often talk about. And I, as you know, I'm very passionate about developing my mind and helping people do the same for themselves. And I was feeling a little bit insecure. There was, I think my daughter had made a comment on social media, on one of my postings, and I jokingly said to her, half jokingly, but half of it was vulnerable and insecurities on my end. I said to my daughter, you didn't say to Daddy that you loved him. You said it to Mommy, but not to Daddy. And then she just looked at me and said, Daddy, you know the thing that you always talk about that you remind me of? What are you thinking, Daddy? You know how I feel about you. And then so I realized she's right. I got to take my own advice. So thank you, sweetie. Have a great evening, everyone. Good evening, guys. I want to share with you.
We have a twofold moral purpose. One is, moral purpose is one, to make ourselves, to maximize ourselves, to be the best possible version of the human being that God wants us to be. And at the same time, and the other hand in hand with that, is to try and make the world a better place. So we have to be doing both of these at the same time. We have to be improving ourselves and making the world a better place at the same time. And I think every human has that obligation. And I think, we could look around for a long time, humanity's around most of the 20th century, and it's like, let's have some wars and bombs and pour pesticides and everything, and genetically modify food, and pour carbon into the atmosphere, and overfish, and we were like drunken teenagers at their first party, just going crazy. But now it really is every human's responsibility to do both of those things.
Need motivation?
Watch your top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because running a business is hard, and waking up every day and getting to work when you're all by yourself is hard. And the thing that saved me, that continues to inspire me, motivate me, give me hope, inspiration, ideas, is looking at the stories of people who've done a lot more than me. And I learn strategies, I get motivation, and it gets me to believe in myself to go off and attack the day. And so I hope this video inspires you to do the same as well. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Rainn Wilson, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is meditate.
Do you have a meditation practice?
I do. I meditate every day. I keep it very simple. It's about 15 minutes, and it's just about quieting the mind.
You do it in the morning?
I try to do it in the morning. Sometimes I'll forget and answer a bunch of emails and get on a call, and then it's 1 o'clock, I'll do my meditation. But I try and do it in the morning. I think a lot of people think that it has to be fancy and has to use an app or have a mantra or something like that. It really can be, and in fact, it can just be sitting at a stoplight in your car and closing your eyes for 30 seconds to breathe. Breathing is part of meditation, and to just quiet the thoughts of the mind, because we are, and that's another thing spirituality teaches us, we're not our thoughts. Thoughts are a helpful tool. They can be. Sometimes thoughts, you were describing OCD, thoughts can be an impediment to feeling of well-being. But my identity, your identity, our identities is not based on thought. It's based on some other reality that is above and beyond and within and without thought.
Rule number 3 is overcome your fears.
When I got out of college, I was really lost for many years. I suffered from severe anxiety attacks. I would get anxiety attacks where I would be on the subway in New York City, like shaking. I was afraid that people were going to think that I was like a crack addict because I was like sweating. I'm kind of sweating right now, actually, but that's more from the LA weather. But, I would be shaking and sweating on the subway, panicking the days I couldn't get out of bed. Sometimes I would just fall to the ground. These came and went for years. Sometimes they would be attached to a thing, so all of a sudden it would get attached to flying, and then I would have this terrible fear of flying. Then it would go away from flying, and then it would be enclosed spaces, and I would get it around enclosed spaces. Then it would just kind of randomly happen.
How did you, as an actor on the stage, how did you deal with that? That's got to be a pretty big trigger to literally be on stage in front of people.
Yeah. In fact, it was a big deal. It never happened on stage, but I would get that fear, that when you get that cold, chilled ice water in your veins, like heart thumping fear, like, oh, this thing is about to happen. I would get that terror that I was on the stage, because I did theater for 10 years before I came to LA and eventually did The Office. So I did a lot of different plays, a lot of different styles of acting characters, and I was terrified that one of these days I was going to seize up on stage, forget all my lines, and start shaking and sweating.
Do you have a guess as to why it didn't happen?
Well, I think that it's like people who stutter. Like, I have a couple friends that stutter, and when they're acting, they don't stutter. They're actors who stutter. So in real life, they stutter, and when they're on stage playing characters, they don't stutter. So what is that about? There's a certain part of the brain that you're using. There's a certain consciousness and focus that you're bringing to the words that you're saying that I think allow you to not stutter and to not succumb to panic attacks. But I was going to say, jumping ahead, this all came back years later when I started doing talk shows. And this sounds crazy. It sounds absolutely nuts, but I started having a debilitating fear of doing talk shows. This was like when I started doing The Office in the early 2000s. I did my first one in like 2005, 2006, between like 2006, 2010, right in there, when The Office was just taking off, and I was doing Conan O'Brien back when he was at Rockefeller Center and stuff like that. And I would not sleep the night before. I would have night terrors, and I would have a debilitating fear of freezing on camera, not having anything to say, and just kind of shutting down, and even stuff happening with my body. It never actually happened, but I would have to like work on my material. Talk shows are a really weird thing. This is different. We're just having a conversation. But a talk show with a live studio audience that's being taped, and then what's being taped is just going to be fed through. And this was back in the day when people were actually watching network television. And there was actually one episode, I need to find it somewhere. It's in the annals of the YouTube videos that no one cares about or watches anymore. It was like me on Jay Leno in 2008 or something like that. And I told him about my fear of talk shows, and that my therapist wanted me to act out having a nervous breakdown on national television. And I actually did it almost as like a skit. And people thought, like, is this supposed to be funny? Is this real? It had a little bit of a Charlie Kaufman edge to it. You weren't sure what you were supposed to think, but I literally went on the floor on Jay Leno's show and I was like shaking and like, and I said, thank you so much. This was so therapeutic because I went through my biggest fear, which was having an anxiety attack on a talk show.
I have to see that interview now. That is crazy. Did it actually help? Like, was there something therapeutic? Like, was it exposure therapy or?
You know, it did help a little bit. It did help. It showed me the absurdity of like, Rain, you're not going to be seized by tremors and have giant flop sweat and shake, you know, in a fetal position on the floor of a national talk show. It's not going to happen. It didn't completely go away. It's not like I was magically cured after that, but it definitely took a step in the right direction.
Rule number 4 is find your passion.
Should we be pursuing and following what we love the most and making that our purpose? Or should we be just trying to figure out our purpose and then making that something we love to do?
Oh, man. You're good. Oh, you're good. That's a good, because
you just said, acting's your biggest love.
I think you follow what turns you on the most. You have to really make sure that it's not for ego and not for self-promotion, but you
not
find
to get famous or
to
get rich.
Yeah. It's like you can love acting, but then if you pursue acting for all the wrong reasons, you can really end up in a morass.
Yeah.
But you want to, or a musician, or, fill in the dots, or an entrepreneur or a businessman, because you want to have a house in Montauk or something like that. Like, that's a very different reason than you have great business ideas, you want to employ people, and you want to be part of a dynamic.
Solve a problem, right?
Solve a problem and be part of a evolving, dynamic, ever-changing world, and helping humanity move forward as a species, the 7 billion of us. I think you follow what turns you on, but then you have to be very sensitized to that journey, and doors will open, and you have to be really like, you hear that story all the time. Like, I want to be a lawyer. I want to go to law school or whatever. And then I was going to law school, and Dimitri Martin tells that story. He's a stand-up comic. He's a hysterical stand-up comic. And he was in NYU law school. And then on the side, he did comedy gigs. He would go do open mics. And he just fell in love with it. And just, again, little doors started opening. And he dropped out of law school to go be a stand-up comic. And he's one of the most successful ones in the United States. He just directed his first film, and he's just a great guy. And you have to listen to that little voice and those little proddings, and that
it's almost letting go of attachment too, of like what you kind of set out in your mind of like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I already said it, so I'm going to go do it. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to do this thing. It's like you got to kind of be aware and open to other things, right?
It's letting go of the result of that. Yeah. So I love being a lawyer. I'm going to go study the law. And then you've got to be open to whatever happens along the way. You take a trip to another country and you fall in love with that country, or you meet a woman in that country and fall in love. And then all of a sudden you're working for a nonprofit in that country with the woman that you love and using your legal skills in a different way. And you've got to be open to what the universe gives you. Because I do believe that the universe, there is that energy in the universe. I know when I'm in sync with the energy of the universe, I feel right.
Yeah.
I know that sounds very hippy-dippy, but
you're in flow.
I do believe that exists.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Rule number 5 is learn to grieve.
It sounds like you had a pretty good
that power that you're using to control your life. It's your connection to oneness, to what we all really are, to the truth. The ultimate truth. That you were born to win control over your mind. That when we all do that, we find out the truth of who we all really are. Infinitely intelligent beings, powerful beyond measure. The power of all knowing right here, right now, this moment. You're already made of all knowing of the universe. You're made of that same stuff. And with that, you can always have and be your true, peaceful, happy, kind, loving self.